panic, and that will create precisely those forces we do not want to have for the economic recovery.
But then there's the internal effect as well on Libya itself. We can sometimes lose sight of the fact that there would be a humanitarian problem inside the country, shortages of food, of water, of medical supplies, all these things.
That is the internal scene of this, and I think that complicates the job of the international community. And if anything, global concerns, domestic concerns, humanitarian, economic, political, security, civilian, all of this would suggest that the international community needs to perhaps speed up its response, whether it's international pressure or consideration for all sorts of other scenarios. This conflict should not be allowed to drag on. Time, in my view, is not on the side of the rebels, not on the side of the international community. And the scenario that you might have a couple of days from now, if there are open civil war conditions, could be much more dire and much more difficult and complicated to manage.
Tariq Yusuf with more of his excellent analysis with us here in the studio. Thank you, Tariq. It has been 100 days since a new transitional government took charge in Somalia. And the occasion has seen pro-government forces actually take control of a strategic town in the west. An official says al-Shabaab fighters abandoned the town of Luk on Monday morning without a fight. In Côte d'Ivoire, gangs of youths and uniformed police have looted at least 10 homes belonging to politicians allied to the opposition leader Alassane Ouattara. UN peacekeepers have been unable to control all the chaos in Abidjan. Roadblocks have been set up by government supporters to stop them. Meanwhile, in the west of the country, rebels claim they've captured the town of Toleplu from government forces, though Bagbo's military denies this. The latest with Mohamed Ado, who's live in Abidjan for us. Hi, Mohamed. This is looking quite targeted, going after, it's not just general violence, going after people affiliated with the opposition.
Indeed, Kamal, this is just part of a growing lawlessness we're witnessing here in Abidjan. Most of the houses targeted belong to officials of the RDR party of Alassane Ouattara, and they include the house of the man he appointed as finance minister, Mr. Charles Kofi. Witnesses spoke of dozens of youth smashing the windows and the doors of Charles Kofi's house and later on making away with dishes and other valuables while wearing the finance minister's suits and robes. Other houses have also been targeted belonging to officials of Ouattara's party, and some of the houses were burnt. Now, the same youth who are carrying out these acts of lawlessness have also set up blockades and barricades on streets across the capital. They've been urged onto the streets by their leader, Charles Blegude, who is also Mr. Laurent Gbagbo's employment minister. And we were up and about late last evening, and they are searching vehicles and motorcycles alike, saying that they also want to blockade the streets to ensure that the UN peacekeepers do not get access to some parts of the city.
And yet Alassane Ouattara is just trying to carry on. Yesterday we saw him meet Jean Ping from the African Union, and he wants to go to an AU leaders meeting, we must say, in, I think it's Ethiopia.
Yes, the AU summit is happening in Ethiopia on Thursday this week. It's been called after 5 African presidents who had been given the role of proposing a solution to the Ivorian political crisis did not do that, and said they instead would invite the two leaders who are squabbling over who is the president of this country to Addis Ababa, so that a proposal on how to end the stalemate will be proposed in Addis Ababa. So far, we don't know whether Alassane Ouattara, where Alassane Ouattara will fly from, because the airport here in Abidjan and the main one is controlled by pro-Gbagbo forces.
Mohamed Ado live in Abidjan on the News Hour. Thank you, Mohamed. News from Europe, and the former French President Jacques Chirac is due to go on trial in the next few hours, facing corruption charges involving fake jobs from when he was the mayor of Paris. Tim Friend has more on that.
In typical style, Jacques Chirac always insisted that he wanted to be treated like any other person facing trial. But that's unlikely to happen. The 78-year-old, one of France's longest-serving presidents, seems to grow in popularity with the French public, who view him with a particular fondness, the envy of other politicians. This is despite the fact that he's the first former head of state to face criminal charges since the Fifth Republic was founded half a century ago.
he is a man who sort of does the right thing at critical times. I mean, we've seen it politically at other times, like saying that France should not be involved in Iraq. We've seen it at times where he stood up for the rights of Parliament. And we saw it, of course, that he was very unequivocally against the Front National. And, that he stands as a statesman for that, I think, whatever his other faults.
He's now in fragile health. His wife, Bernadette, dismissed reports that he's suffering from Alzheimer's disease, but he may find a court appearance arduous. The abuse of public funds charges spring from his time as mayor of Paris and salaries paid to so-called phantom employees at the town hall. The money was used as part of Chirac's drive for further power in the 1990s, at the end of his 18-year term as mayor.
Well, he finished his term as mayor of Paris in 1995, and after that he won 2 presidential elections in 1995 and in 2002. Now, the French public was very much aware of these very serious allegations against him of corruption. But it's a cultural problem in France. I think the French press is not strong enough. It didn't do a good job of holding him accountable.
A civil action is being settled by repayment of funds. Mr. Chirac lost his legal immunity against criminal charges after he retired. If found guilty, he could face a heavy fine and up to 10 years in prison. But in practice, he would be more likely to receive a small suspended sentence. Tim Friend, Al Jazeera, Paris.
In Bangladesh, a court case is underway to decide whether the sacking of Muhammad Yunus from the bank he founded is in fact legal or not. The country's central bank dismissed the Nobel Peace Prize winner last week, saying he was working in violation of the country's retirement laws. But Yunus's lawyers argue Grameen Bank has a special status, therefore those rules don't apply. Yunus is 70, has been an outspoken government critic. Back in 2007, tried to form his own political party as well. Indonesia, and the case of a prominent Muslim cleric will restart on Thursday. Comes after prosecutors rejected a statement from Abu Bakar Bashir's defence team. His supporters allege international involvement in the case. Bashir is accused of planning terrorism and funding a paramilitary training camp in Aceh province. Japan's chief cabinet secretary has been named the acting foreign minister. Seiji Mihara resigned from the post on Sunday after admitting he'd received an illegal political donation. Just the latest in a series of political scandals that have left many people in Japan disillusioned with their leadership. Steve Chow reports from Tokyo.
At the Ogawa rubber mask factory, TV entertainers have replaced politicians on the assembly line. With 5 different prime ministers in 5 years in what is a seeming lack of leadership, there's been a growing disdain among Japanese for anything political.
Politicians' masks used to make up at least 50% of our orders. Now it's only 10%. The public feels politicians don't give us anything to look forward to.
That certainly is the current sentiment with Naoto Kan, the latest prime minister less than